Welcome everyone. Today I am going to discuss a new topic called factor analysis. But first let's take a look at this quotation. When you can measure what you are speaking about and express it in numbers, you know something about it. But when you cannot express it in numbers, you know your knowledge is of a meager and unsatisfactory kind. This was This is a saying by Lord Kelvin, British scientist. So it means that measurement is necessary. Without measurement, you can say that this is good or this is bad, but you don't know that how much it is good or how much it is bad. So this is first notable mention. Charles Edward Spearman, British psychologist and also statistician. He was known for his seminal work on testing and measuring of human intelligence by using the factor analysis during World War I. Okay. So we discussed about the fundamental concepts of principal component analysis, and we have also discussed about the drawbacks of principal component analysis, and we have seen that since principal component analysis is not very much fruitful in all the cases, because basically principal component analysis accumulates some variables so that the data can be reduced, but there is no guarantee that the accumulated data that will be something meaningful one for the real world situation. And that's why principal component analysis is not used, and in principal component analysis because in principal component analysis or PCA, the the components are expressed in terms of the variables, so that's why it happens. But in case of exploratory factor analysis, we have already told that there are two different types of factor analysis: exploratory factor analysis and confirmatory factor analysis. So, and in exploratory factor analysis, we the variables are expressed in terms of some hypothetical factors which are not observable. That's why they are termed as latent variables or latent factors or constructs. And that's why in factor analysis, if you select the principal axis factoring method, usually while you carry out the principal factor analysis method, and you actually get something meaningful. Okay. And so this we will discuss the exploratory factor analysis. And in case of the principal component analysis, the components are not they do not provide you redundant information. There is no correlation between the components, but in this case there might be the correlation could be there. And so today we are going to discuss in details about exploratory factor analysis first. In case of exploratory factor analysis, there is no you do not propose some hypothesis earlier. In exploratory factor analysis, you have got some variables that you can directly measure. They are termed as observed variables, or the manifest variables, and the factors are actually factors. They actually represent the causal relationship of those variables based on the common variance or shared variance. Okay, so first you can be surprised to see that this dialog box, this is actually a screenshot from SPSS, and earlier I have said that there is a sometimes it makes a huge confusion. Why? Because in SPSS and in other software you will see that there is no separate method of principal component analysis. You can see that first you go to analyze tab, then dimension reduction, and then factor. Okay, so under factor analysis you need to do the principal component analysis, principal component analysis and also the factor analysis. And you can see here that the extraction methods are different. Extraction methods are there. Principal component method is there. If you want to do principal component analysis, then you select this one. That is not factor analysis at all. And there is also principal axis factoring method is there. So that you can, that usually we use in case of factor analysis. That is also termed as common factor analysis. Okay, so factor analysis versus PCA I have already told, and you can go through these details. This is given by the University of Wisconsin-Madison. The details are given here. And also you can check out here that the difference between PC and factor analysis. So when you just want to reduce the data, then you use PCA, and when your aim is to find or verify the latent factors, or then you use FA or factor analysis. Okay, so I have already discussed these things, that's why I will not repeat. Okay, this is the fundamental equation for factor analysis model. Okay, this is the fundamental equation. You can see the equation, but you don't need to actually derive this equation. You just know that these equations and the methodology that is to be carried out for conducting exploratory factor analysis. So here there is a very nice video is presented, principal access factoring versus principal component analysis. You can check out this link. And here also this is given the same thing when to use PC and PAF. Okay, you can see that education and income, they are accumulating and they are representing the socio-economic status. A linear socio-economic status is a linear combination of education and income. So socio-economic status, here actually you can use principal component analysis in these cases. Why? Because socio-economic status, it is not the cause of education or income, because education and income, they jointly, their conjugal output is actually socio-economic income. But socio-economic income is not the cause of education and income. But in some cases, there are some causes latent which are not observable. So that you can see here that suppose prejudice. So this is a latent factor that we cannot directly observe, but here I feel negatively toward black people. This is one variable, and I cannot imagine falling in love with a black person. This is another variable. So this is the prejudice that is the cause of these two outcomes. That's why the direction of arrow, that is also from towards the, from the construct towards the direction of the variable. or observed or manifest variable that you will see. But in principal component analysis, the direction of arrow is reverse. That means from the variables towards the principal components. So here I have explained this thing: the first extracted factor, the second extracted factor, all these things I have discussed already. So while this also I have discussed, while calculation PCA takes into account all variances, specific error and common variance, whereas common factor analysis considers only shared variance. So these things I have already discussed. So sometimes after a post-exploratory factor analysis, you can also perform confirmatory factor analysis, and for that by using convergent and discriminant validity. Okay, so you estimate all the loadings using maximum likelihood, and then you test the model fitness, and you validate it using convergent and discriminant validity that I will discuss later on. So, but now one thing you should keep in mind, that it is not surprising that different analysis could reach very different results analyzing the same data set. However, all analysts are looking for a simple structure. Simple structure is a pattern of results such that each variable loads highly onto one and only one factor. Okay, so this is quite obvious because different analysts, their intention might be different, so they can use different they can select differently. They will select actually accordingly. Okay, because sometimes how many factors you want to extract, that suppose that number, that is that depends up to the researcher. Sometimes the researchers, they might prefer very little factors, but sometimes the researchers, so that's why different researchers can find results, but the objective is more or less same. Now there are, as you can see here, that different types of factor extraction methods are discussed, but we will discuss about the most commonly used techniques. And now we will discuss some statistical terms that are associated with factor analysis. Earlier we have also discussed when we discussed about principal component analysis. Now we will again give the definition, and later on we will also discuss it. We will discuss with explanation and example. So what is communality? Communality is the amount of variance a variable shares with all the other variables being considered. This is also the proportion of variance explained by the common factors. Eigenvalue. The eigenvalue represents the total variance explained by each factor. Factor loadings. Factor loadings are simple correlation between the variables and the factors. Factor loading plot. A factor loading plot is a plot of the original variables using the factor loadings as coordinates. Factor matrix. A factor matrix contains the factor loadings of all the variables on all the factors extracted. Later on, we will explain all those things, all those terms. Now, there are some assumptions of factor analysis: that no outliers in the data set, normality of the data set, adequate sample size. Data should be metric in nature. It means on interval and ratio scale. Usually, we use a 5-point Likert scale to conduct factor analysis. Models are usually based on linear relationships between the variables. multicollinearity is necessary because variables here actually no outliers in the data set. It means no outliers in the data set. You can test whether the outlier is there. We know about the box plot method by means of which we can test whether there is outliers or exist in the data or not. Normality, that we can also test. You have previously we have seen, suppose if you do not know about these things, then you can go through. When we discussed there is this is box plot by means of which we can test normality and also whether any exist whether there exist any outliers in the data set that we can exist. And also there are also other methods, skewness and kurtosis z values, so by means of which the normality can be tested. Okay. So now again I will discuss about so adequate sample size, that I will discuss later on. Data should be metric. I have already told that usually 5-point Likert scales are used. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The degrees are represented, and this scale is used. Models are usually based on linear relationship, not a non-linear relationship. You can plot those data to understand that whether there is linear relationship exists or not. And multicollinearity is necessary because variables must be highly associated with some of the other variables, so they will load into factors, but all of the variables should not be highly correlated. When only one factor will be present, it is best for analysis to have group of variables highly associated with each other, which will result in those variables loadings as a factor and not correlated at all with other group of variables. And departure from normality, homoscedasticity and linearity can apply to extent that they diminish observed correlation. It means as long as the correlation among the variables is not vanished, because this correlation may help in grouping. So basically there are different assumptions of for factor analysis, but actually you don't need to test all these things before conducting factor analysis. Why? Because a little bit departure or little bit deviation from the normality, homoscedasticity and linearity can happen, may exist in the data. As a whole you need to consider, and there are some specific tests by means of which you can consider whether you should apply factor analysis or not, and that we will discuss. Here you can see the exploratory factor model and confirmatory factor model. Yes, this is the case study. So suppose we have 12 variables. You can see that scored. This is scored on a 5-point Likert scale. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So these 12 variables are there, and we actually collect the data like this. We put column wise, we put the variables, and along the row wise we put all our responses from the survey. Okay, and another example is there. This example is very good. The variables, this example has been taken from Lawley and Maxwell, that studied the general intelligence of 220 students. So 5 variables are there: marks obtained in Gaelic, English, history, and arithmetic, algebra, geometry. So these are the sample size. 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 220. 220 is the size here, and These are the responses, that means the marks obtained, that you can place here. Okay, so what are the steps in factor analysis though? So there are 5 steps. There are 5. So there are 4 steps basically. First step, the correlation matrix for all variables is computed. The second step is factor extraction. The third step is factor rotation, and fourth step is make final decisions about the number of underlying factors. So this is the method. The method has been described in short. I will discuss. The first step, the correlation matrix. Okay, the first thing we need to check, you have collected the variables, different variables are there. Suppose there are from Lolly and Maxwell, you can see that there are 5 variables. Here you can see that there are 6 variables are there. And so first you need to test the correlation matrix. So just take a look at this correlation matrix. This is the correlation matrix of the 6 variables, and you can see here that x2 and x3 and x2 and x4, lot of variables are there which are very highly correlated. The correlation is greater than 0.3. Okay, so it is so that's why you can guess that factor analysis may be applicable in this case, because since they are highly correlated, some variables, so they can be they can be grouped. Okay, so that's why uh, mm, you can guess that the factor analysis could be implemented. Okay, but this is just a guess, but you need to be sure about it. So that's why you need to conduct 2 tests. So these 2 tests are actually performed if you use SPSS software, then these 2 tests are performed: Bartlett's test of sphericity and KMO or Kaiser-Meyer-Olkin test. These 2 tests are performed simultaneously or together. So what is Bartlett's test of sphericity? It tests the null hypothesis that all the correlation between the variable is 0. It also tests whether the correlation matrix is an identity matrix or not. If it is an identity matrix, then factor analysis becomes inappropriate. That is quite natural, because in case of identity matrix, all the diagonal elements will be 1. So the and the off diagonal elements will be 0. That means the variables, they are not correlated with the other variables. So you need to test the Bartlett's test of sphericity. Okay, that is important. And another thing you can see here, that KMO and Bartlett's test, they are simultaneously done. And what is KMO test? This test checks the adequacy of data for running the factor analysis. The value of KMO ranges from 0 to 1. The larger the value of KMO, more adequate is the sample for running the factor analysis. Kaiser recommends accepting values greater than 0.5 as acceptable, but usually in some cases 0.6, more than 0.6 is desired. Okay, so you can see that KMO and Bartlett's tests, they are performed together, and they can give you the Bartlett's test of sphericity, that is given you the chi-square, a very high amount of chi-square. The degrees of freedom is 66, and the significance level is it is a significant. Bartlett's test of sphericity, that it gives you the significant value. Okay, so and KMO, that also provide you 0.934. It is very close to 1. So your sample size is adequate, and it is also applicable for factor analysis, because there is sufficient correlation among the variables. Okay, so as a rule of thumb, minimum 10 observations per variable is necessary to avoid computational 10 observations per variable is necessary to avoid computational difficulties. and number of observations are greater than 20 cases per variables. So, and as a whole, you should have around 200. If you have 200 or more than 200 sample size, then you can conduct your factor analysis, or even later on you will see that structural equation model that you can conduct. And many researchers, you will see that some researchers, they use less than 200 sample size, but actually less than 200 sample size is not appropriate unless uh, there are some restrictions. For example, if you want to uh, take some countries, uh, so suppose African countries or European countries, so there you will have some limitations because you cannot find more than 200 countries or something like that. So now the second step is factor extraction. Okay, so in case of factor extraction, I have said that principal component analysis you can use, but in majority of the cases nowadays, instead of principal component analysis, principal axis factoring, that is actually allowed, or that is used. But still I would say that it depends upon the particular problem and what you actually want to calculate, and it I have already discussed. Okay, so suppose we have used principal axis factoring, so what you will get, suppose you have 23 number of variables, so you will get like these kinds of communalities. I have previously discussed about the communalities when I discussed about principal component analysis. So initially, mm, the communality assumed to be 1. That means all variances are common variances. So after extraction, the communalities are judged. So what does it mean? It means 43.5% of variance, that is shared variance. Before extraction, there are as many factors as there uh, variables. N is equal to 23, so that all variance is explained by factors and communality is 1. No data reduction yet. After extraction, some of the factors are retained and others are dismissed. This leads to a welcome data reduction. Now the amount of variance in each variable explained by the factors. Now the amount of variation in each variable explained by the factors is the communality. So what does it mean? The communality means that how much variance of the variable is explained by the factors. So you can say that Q01 for this variable, 43.5% variance is explained by all the factors. So that's why by all the extracted factors. So that's why it is actually, it is based on shared variance. If you use principal axis factoring, that means it is the shared variance. Okay. Now this is the factor matrix. You can see that here we are evaluating the two cooking methods for fish. So there are 4 variables. Suppose there are 4 variables, and there are 2 factors you are considering for. And what you can see that these are actually the factor loadings. What is factor loading? Uh, so what is what here loading means that how much variance the factor can explain for this particular factor can explain for this particular variable. Okay. Now, whenever you talk about communality, it means that how much variance of this variable is explained by all the factors. That is known as communality. If you these are the loadings, and what is the eigenvalue. Here you will get the eigenvalues. The eigenvalues represent the total variance that explained by the factor for all the variables, that is known as the eigenvalue. Okay. So actually, if you here actually how to calculate the communality, if you do the lambda square 1, suppose this is lambda square 1 1, this is lambda 1 2, and this is lambda 2 1, like this. So if you square and then if you sum it up, then it will be lambda 1 1 square plus lambda 1 2 square is equal to summation of lambda square will be this value. Similarly, when you will calculate the eigenvalues, you will lambda 1 1 square plus lambda 2 1 square plus lambda 3 1 square plus lambda 4 1 square, you will get this value. Okay. Similarly, these values are calculated. So if communality is always desired as greater than 0.5, if it is less than 0.5, it can be deleted. Why it is deleted? Because the factors uh, cannot explain. Actually, it means that uh, very less variance of the variable is explained by the factors. That's why the variable is deleted. Okay, but in this particular case, it is and here the lambda square, the eigenvalue is usually taken as greater than 1, but this is known as Kaiser Gutman criteria, but in some cases it is also taken as the cutoff is taken as 0.7. 0.7 or more than 0.7, but less than 0.7 is avoided. Why less than 0.7 or less than 1? In some cases it is avoided because it means that the factor is not capable to explain uh, sufficient total variance of the variables. Okay, so that's why we can neglect the factor. Okay, so now uh, now uh, uh, now you can see here that this I have already discussed, that this is called this slide is not good. We can we'll discuss it later on, but just take a look at this slide first. That here the scree plot is there. Okay, and we need to look at the elbow. This is actually the elbow. This is the elbow. Okay, here we represent the number of factors, and here we represent along y-axis we represent the eigenvalues, and along x-axis we represent the number of factors. So you can see that the first eigenvalue, it is very high, then the second eigenvalue, then the third eigenvalue, up to this we can consider. Then these eigenvalues we cannot consider because they are very less. That means these eigenvalues, these factors, if we consider, then they will be explaining very less amount of variance. So we can neglect them. So now this is one very important step that I will discuss. This is basically this is the requirement of this of the third step. Okay, that problems with the cross loading. Sometimes, suppose you have done all these things, you have suppose you already you have seen in this picture that you have done these kinds of things. You have found out the communality and the eigenvalues, and you have also selected that which factors need to be extracted, which factors you will be selecting. but then your work is that which particular variable to be assigned onto which factor, that you need to check out. Okay, now there is some how to do that, and there is a problem of cross loading. Cross loading means if some particular variable, if the factor loadings are, sometimes the factor loadings are very close. Okay, so you cannot decide that that particular variable is to be assigned on which particular factor. Okay, and there is some controversy about that. Normally researchers use 0.5 as threshold. However, others argue that the important is that the item loading is main factor at the higher than the loadings in other. And they do not provide any specific threshold. The other also indicate that there should be at least a difference of 0.2 between loading. For example, if an item loads 0.8 in one factor, the highest loading of this item on the other factor should be 0.6. Sometimes the items are simply deleted from the correlation matrix. By rotating the factors, the distribution of the variables is made better across the factors to have a better loading pattern. Okay, so this is the very important phenomena because of which we do the rotation. Just take a look at what is the problem we are actually talking about. So these are the variables. Okay, these are the components or the, here they have used principal component analysis, but you can use principal axis factoring method or common factor analysis method. So you will be, suppose you have 4 factors, okay, or components, whatever you can say. So the problem is that suppose this, there is no problem that this particular variable is loaded onto this one factor, first factor. This particular variable is loaded onto this factor. But just have a look at this one. This particular variable is loaded onto 1 and 3. Okay. Now some researchers, they have said that you load if since it is 0 over 0.5, so you give the variable to this first factor. Okay, but some researchers, they have also argued that no, it is not correct, because 0.343, this is also not, you cannot neglect. So 0.54 and 0.343, the difference is not the difference is not within 0.2. Okay, so the difference is around 0.2. So here you should consider the difference is not very big. So that's why you need to rotate this structure. So that we will discuss, that factor rotation. So factor rotation, how the factors are rotated. Factor rotation, basically there are 2 types of. So what is the objective of factor rotation? The objective of factor rotation is that maximizes high item loading and minimizes the low item loadings, so that we can distinguish very clearly, okay, to have a better pattern, to find a better pattern of the matrix. Okay, so the rotation, you can see that there are 2 different types of rotation: orthogonal rotation and oblique rotation. And under orthogonal rotation, there is Varimax method, Quadrimax method, Equimax method. Under oblique rotation, direct Oblimin method, Promax method is there. But usually we, if you can check out on the internet or any standard book that what are the requirements of these particular, what are the advantages of these rotation methods. But usually we use the Varimax method, because Varimax method, this actually maximizes the high item loadings and minimizes low item loadings in very well manner. So that's why we use Varimax method, and we will discuss about this method. So what is the differences between orthogonal rotation and just this is an information to you that the when we use orthogonal rotation and when we use the oblique rotation, that orthogonal when the orthogonal rotation requires factors to remain uncorrelated. Okay, so orthogonal, and for the other cases, we oblique rotation often achieve greater simple structure though at cost. So oblique rotation, if you if mm, so if the factors are correlated with each other, then you can use oblique rotation. Okay, so what we can do, that we can also do oblique rotation. It is not a very big deal. You just need to, in SPSS software, you just need to select the oblique rotation and you need to check out that which particular method is giving you the better result. That is a way you can consider. Okay, but just this is for your information, uh, that this is oblique rotation, because you can see that this is unrotated factor 1, this is unrotated factor 2, and if you rotate this, then uh, it is also 90 degree. So this is orthogonal rotation, and in this case, this is oblique rotation. You are rotating, but the angle is not 90 degree. So this is known as oblique rotation method. So in that way you can also consider. We will not go into very much details about this rotation method, but it can be showed mathematically. Mathematically, it can be proved that oblique rotation, you might think that oblique rotation, in orthogonal rotation, it is okay. The factors are previously at 90 degree and then also it is 90 degree, so then there is no problem. But in case of oblique rotation, the factors were previously at an angle of 90 degree, but then it is less than 90 degree. So, but actually oblique rotation does not, it can be mathematically proved that oblique rotation does not uh, lose or change the originality of the problem. So basically, since the originality is not lost, so you can use oblique rotation. It can be mathematically proved that the originality, in case of oblique rotation also, the originality is not lost. Just uh, that means the calculation procedure is not wrong, and just the uh, loading pattern is we the loading pattern that we find, that is better loading pattern, and the procedure of the increasing or the betterment in the loading pattern, that is not wrong. So that means the originality is not lost actually. So what we can check uh, mm, an example of this Lawley and Maxwell's. This example we can check out. Okay, so in this case we can see that here you can see that Gaelic, this variable, that factor 1 and factor 2, if you plot these things, then it will look like this. So you can see that Gaelic, the difference is very less. So it is not very good. Okay, the difference is very less, and it is unrotated. That is, this is not good, very good. But if you rotate, then you will get like this, 0.369, 0.594. So you make a better pattern. But yes, obviously, when you are doing some better, you are looking for some better pattern after the rotation, then it may so happen that for some variables you can get even worse pattern. Okay, it might happen, but that again depends upon that the overall thing you need to consider. The overall goodness you need to consider. You can see that in case of English, it is 0.568, 0.288. So you can easily identify that it should be go to factor 1. Okay, English. But in this case, you can see that it has been changed, in fact. So the English beta loading here is given is factor 2. Here the beta loading is given. Okay, and here this is 0.433, but again this is not very the difference is not very high. Okay, but in case of history, it is improved significantly, you can see. Okay, in case of arithmetic, it has improved. So in case of algebra, it has also improved. Okay, so you can see that in case of geometry also it is improved. The loading pattern has been improved. So you need to look at most number of variables. If it is improved, then you should consider it. And so you can assume that that Gaelic, English, history, they are assigned to factor 2, whereas arithmetic, algebra, and geometry, they are assigned on to factor 1. Okay, so why you can guess here that Gaelic, English, history, these things are actually basically related to arts. Okay, so you can realize that factor 2 is something which expresses the capability of arts. Okay, and regarding the arithmetic, algebra, geometry, they are all of them are loaded onto factor 1. So you can realize that they are science based or analytical things, analytic or maths science based thing. Okay, so the factor 1 must be something that explains the scientific knowledge. Okay, so now so this is all about these things and making the final decisions. Now you need to make the decisions about it. But this is already the third step. This already you can take the decision which particular thing will go on to which particular factor variable. And there you can see that an example has been given. Okay, an example has been given that how to conduct these things. Okay, and you can see this there is a difference. Suppose you are conducting in your while you are conducting factor analysis, in case of the factor extraction method, suppose if you use principal component analysis or PCA, you will get the initial eigenvalues and extraction sums of square loading. These three items you can see they are same here. But in case of when you are implementing the principal axis factoring, then they are different. Okay, you can see that they are different. Why they are different? Because in this case you are only taking into account the common variances instead of total variances. Okay, so that's why these things happen. And then the rotation, after rotation that you are getting here, that is displayed. Okay, so what I would like to say there, this particular example is has been explained. This particular example, it has been explained here, but I don't need to go into don't need to describe it, because I have already described it when I have discussed the principal component analysis. Just the same interpretation. If you suppose if you add all these things, you will get 12, and then if you 6 divided by 12 6.249 divided by 12 if you do, and percentage value if you take, then you will get these percentages. Okay, so you can easily understand that up to 0.719 they have considered these, the first three factors they have considered. Okay, I have previously told you that you can take 1 or even 0.7 or more than 0.7 but not less than 0.7. Some researchers, they have suggested the criteria as 0.7 eigenvalue. So all of them together, these factors can explain the around 68% of the variance that present in your data, in set of data of variables. Okay, so but when you are considering the after extracting the sum of square loadings, and whenever you are using principal axis factoring, then you are, or common factor analysis method, then you are using only the the shared variances. Okay, so that's why this is since you are using only the shared variances, then you are getting these values. It will be little bit less because that is quite obvious, because in this case you are considering the total variances, but in this cases you were considering only the shared variances. So if you take all, add all these things, then it will be 7.017. Now if you 5 divided by 7.017 into 100, if you do these things, then you will get 48%, 48.759% like this. And all of them, they together, these three factors, they can explain 58.478% of the variance, of the shared variance. Okay, and you can also notice that after the total extraction of sum, whenever the rotation is there, okay, if you do the rotation, okay, you even if you do the oblique rotation, I have already told you that it does not the originality does not get lost. Originality does not lost. So what does it mean that originality is not lost? It means that the same eigen values or the same amount of variances you actually explain. That means even after rotation, you the same amount of variance are explained by the factors. Okay, so that's why the originality does not lost. And but again, this is one case of originality, and another point of view of originality is from the factor itself, obviously. So that is also mathematically it can be proved, that is the originality is not lost. So it is all about the exploratory factor analysis, and in the next class I will discuss about the confirmatory factor structural equation modeling. And whenever I will discuss the structural equation modeling, I will discuss the confirmatory factor analysis simultaneously. Okay, there are some drawbacks of exploratory factor analysis that that I will also discuss here. I'd just like to say that in case of exploratory factor analysis, it is just a mathematical approach, but there is no theory behind it. So the result that you obtain, that in many cases it may happen that the result or some part of the result is not actually justified. Okay, it may so happen. So that's why confirmatory factor analysis is preferred, where you have a from literature review. If you do research work from literature review, you propose your hypothesis first. That means you have some some previous idea about the topic or about the hypothesis that you propose, and then you verify it. Okay, and also in some cases, after doing exploratory factor analysis, you can verify it from the confirmatory factor analysis by doing by by judging the model fitness. Okay, now how to judge the model fitness, that I will discuss on confirmatory factor analysis and structural equation modeling or AC. Okay, thanks for watching.